My sister bullied me for being single while secretly dating two men, so I exposed her cheating at our parents' anniversary party. And that cute, complimentary way. Think oil and water, except the oil thinks it's liquid gold. From day one, my parents put her on a pedestal so high I couldn't dream of reaching it. She's the academic superstar, the golden child, the one everyone praises for being polite and perfect. But behind closed doors? That's where the real Fiona comes out. The part no one else seems to see. She's always treated me like dirt, yet somehow, I'm the only one who sees through her act. Watching people fawn over her, praising her for things she doesn't even deserve, makes me sick. It's like the world is blind to her horns, and I'm the only one who can see her for what she really is. I've spent years wondering if I'm the crazy one, if maybe I'm just too sensitive or overreacting. But then I remember all the cruel things she's done, all the times she's torn me down while smiling sweetly for everyone else. I'm not imagining it. People think she's confident, but they miss the cruelty behind her words. She doesn't just succeed. She makes sure to remind everyone that she's better than them, especially me. Fiona isn't satisfied just being admired. She needs to push others down to feel taller. And let's talk about her looks, because everyone else does. She's the pretty one. I've heard that phrase so many times it could be engraved on my brain. Guys have been falling over themselves to date her since high school, and she treats them like they're disposable. Fiona acts like she's doing men a favor just by considering them. "Oh, he wasn't my standard," she'll say, tossing away someone like he's a pair of shoes she didn't want. Her judgmental streak doesn't stop there. She tears apart people's appearances, relationships, even their life choices, and masks it as honesty. She'll say things like, "I'm just being real," or "it's constructive criticism." But it's not. It's just mean. The other day, she told our cousin that her boyfriend was brave for dating someone with her body type.
Who says that?
And worse, everyone just laughs it off because it's Fiona. Fiona can do no wrong. But the absolute worst part? Our parents. They don't hate me, no, that would be easier to deal with. Instead, they constantly compare me to her, like I'm some defective version of their perfect child. Why can't you be more like Fiona? Look how Fiona handles herself. They genuinely think if I spend enough time with her, her perfection will rub off on me. They call it personality development, but really they're just rubbing salt into the wound. Watching someone get praised for breathing while you get criticized for existing? It's soul-crushing. Growing up, every part of my life was compared to Fiona, from grades to clothes to interests. My B+ in math. Fiona got an A+ without even trying. My love of art? Why don't you do something practical like Fiona? Even teachers joined in. I'll never forget when my high school math teacher announced to the class, "I expect better from Fiona's sister." To everyone else, I wasn't Addison. I was just Fiona's disappointing sequel. All of it, the comparisons, the judgment, wrecked me. My confidence is shot. My social life is non-existent, and relationships? Forget about it. I'm 21 years old, and I've never had a boyfriend. Never even been kissed. Years of being told I'm not good enough makes it impossible to put myself out there. Every time a guy shows even slight interest, all I can think is he'd like Fiona better. So back to that homecoming party. Everyone was there, catching up and acting like life was perfect. Fiona, of course, was surrounded by her fan club, while I did what I always do, faded into the wallpaper. Then came the moment I'd been dreading. One of Fiona's friends turned to me with that fake, sympathetic smile people wear when they're about to say something they know will hurt. "So, Addison, are you seeing anyone?" Before I could even open my mouth to respond, Fiona burst out laughing. Not just a regular laugh, it was the kind of laugh that makes everyone stop and stare. The kind that's meant to humiliate. My sister could barely get the words out between her laughter. "You might as well ask if a rock's dating someone," she said. "The only relationship Addison has is with her ceiling, crying herself to sleep every night." The worst part wasn't even her words. It was the way everyone else joined in. Like my loneliness was the funniest joke they'd heard all year. But Fiona wasn't done. "Let's be real here," she continued, clearly loving the attention. "Have you looked at her? What guy would want to date someone who looks like that? She gestured toward me like I was a broken science experiment. Any man who ends up with her would basically be admitting defeat in life. The laughter grew louder. Some people tried to hide it behind their hands. Others pointed and openly laughed. Fiona sat there soaking it all in like a queen on her throne. I felt the tears coming, and that just made it worse. "Oh look, she's crying again," Fiona announced, mock sympathy dripping from her voice. "Maybe instead of crying about being single, you could try improving yourself. Hit the gym, learn to dress better, maybe get a personality." She ticked off each insult like she was handing out pearls of wisdom instead of tearing me apart. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, she grabbed Jeffrey, her picture-perfect boyfriend, and kissed him, right there in front of everyone. It was so over the top, like something out of a movie. When she pulled back, she smirked. "See this? This is what a real relationship looks like. Maybe if you weren't such a mess, you could have this too. Take notes, little sister." Everyone nodded along, totally under her spell. A few girls even looked at her like she was handing out life advice. "Honestly, you need to grow up," Fiona added, giving me a look of pure disgust. "At this rate, you're going to end up alone forever. But hey, maybe that's for the best. Not everyone's cut out for love." I just sat there, silent, tears running down my face. And the worst part? I believed her. How could I not? My whole life, I'd been told the same things, by her, by our parents, by everyone around us. That I needed to change, to be better, to be more like Fiona. When we got home that night, I tried to talk to my parents. I went to their room, still shaking, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they'd finally listen. I told them everything. How Fiona had humiliated me, how everyone had laughed at me, how she called me unworthy of love. You know what they did? They didn't even look up from their phones. My mom sighed, like I was annoying her with something trivial. "Fiona's your older sister. She knows what's best for you." My dad didn't even hesitate before nodding. "She's just trying to help you improve yourself." That was it. That's when it hit me. They agreed with her. I spent that night locked in my room, crying until I couldn't breathe. The laughter, Fiona's smug face, my parents dismissing me, it all replayed in my head over and over. Was I really so horrible? Was I really unworthy of love? Desperate, I downloaded every dating app one could think of. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, all of them. I spent hours crafting profiles, trying to make myself look perfect. Maybe if I could just find anyone, it would prove Fiona wrong. Prove to myself that I wasn't completely worthless. But it was a disaster. Every match either ghosted me, or turned out to be a creep. It felt like the universe itself was agreeing with Fiona. I even started following her advice. I signed up for a gym membership, watched endless makeup tutorials, and spent money I didn't have on new clothes. Every morning, I woke up early to work out, counting calories, scrutinizing myself in the mirror, trying to change everything about who I was. And through it all, Fiona watched with that smug little smirk, like she enjoyed seeing me struggle. One day, while I was getting ready to go to the gym, she leaned against my doorway and said, "You know this is pointless, right? You could spend years trying to be like me, but let's be real. You'll always be the ugly duckling who never turns into a swan. Nobody's going to waste their time on you." I wanted to scream, to throw something at her perfect face. Instead, I went to my room and punched my pillow until my knuckles ached. That's what brought me here. I'm completely lost. Every time I try to stand up for myself, I get knocked back down. Every time I try to improve, I'm told it's pointless. My sister hates me. My parents don't support me. And I'm starting to believe everyone who says I'm unworthy of love. So please, I need to know, what am I supposed to do? Should I just accept that Fiona will always be better? Should I give up on ever finding someone who might actually care about me? Is this really all I deserve, being the pathetic shadow of my perfect sister? Update 1. First, I want to thank everyone for the support. Reading your comments made me feel less alone for the first time in forever. Before I get into what happened, I need to say something. To those calling me an attention seeker, really? You think after 21 years of emotional abuse and silence, I'm doing this for attention? If I wanted attention, I wouldn't have spent my whole life swallowing my pride while Fiona walked all over me. I wouldn't have stayed silent every time she humiliated me. Trust me, there were plenty of times I wanted to punch that smug smile off Fiona's face, but I didn't. So don't you dare call me an attention seeker when you have no idea what it's like living with someone like her. Now for the real update, and trust me, it's big. It's been a month since my last post, and I've discovered something that would make all the Fiona worshippers choke on their words. Little Miss Perfect isn't so perfect after all. Remember Jeffrey, her dream boyfriend that she loves flaunting in my face? For the past few weeks, Fiona's been getting these elaborate flower deliveries and expensive gifts. She's been showing them off like trophies, claiming they're all from Jeffrey. My parents ate it up, of course. They adore Jeffrey. He's exactly the kind of successful, handsome guy they think Fiona deserves. But something wasn't adding up. Jeffrey's visits had become less frequent. Fiona always had an excuse ready. He's busy with work, or he's visiting family. I didn't think much of it until yesterday. I was walking past Fiona's room, and her door was cracked open. That's when I saw her, sitting on her bed, all cuddled up with a guy who definitely wasn't Jeffrey. She was giggling in that fake, flirty way she does. The look on her face when she noticed me was priceless. For once, Fiona looked terrified. The guy looked confused, and she practically shoved him away. "What the hell is going on?" I asked. And that's when Fiona spun one of her stories. Apparently, she and Jeffrey had broken up ages ago, but no one knew because she was just trying to heal.
Right.
Nothing says healing like secretly dating someone else while pretending to still be with your ex. The new guy? His name's Samuel, and from what I've gathered, he's loaded. All those flowers and fancy gifts she's been parading around? They're from him. Must be nice to have multiple guys falling over themselves for you while you tell your sister she'll die alone. At first, I felt sorry for Jeffrey. Getting dumped by Fiona must be rough. But then I started thinking, why hadn't anyone heard about the breakup? Why was she keeping Samuel such a big secret? It didn't make sense. That's when Fiona cornered me in my room. She put on her fake sweet voice and asked me to keep quiet about Samuel. "I just need time to figure out if he's the one," she said, like she was the star of some romance movie. "I'll tell everyone when I'm ready." But it wasn't a request. Every time she went out with Samuel, she'd text me little reminders to keep my mouth shut. They weren't friendly messages either. They were threats. "Remember what happened last time you crossed me? It would be a shame if Mom and Dad found out, insert embarrassing thing here." Classic Fiona, always finding ways to control me. I kept quiet because I had no choice. Fiona spent years making me look like the jealous, pathetic little sister. If I exposed her secret, she'd twist it to make me the villain again. But then something else happened. I was borrowing her charger, because God forbid I touch any of her stuff without getting an earful, and her phone was lying on the bed. It started lighting up with notifications. A lot of them. And guess whose name I saw? Jeffrey. Not one message, either. There were multiple notifications from her so-called ex. I know I shouldn't have snooped, but after years of Fiona going through my stuff, I figured I owed her one. Unfortunately, her phone was locked, so I couldn't read the messages. But why would Jeffrey still be blowing up her phone if they'd broken up? If they really ended things, wouldn't he have moved on by now? Something isn't adding up here. Maybe Jeffrey's trying to get her back. Maybe they're still together, and Fiona's timing him with Samuel. Knowing her, I wouldn't be surprised. The weirdest part? Fiona hasn't badmouthed Jeffrey once. Normally, when a relationship ends, she spends months trashing the guy to anyone who'll listen. She turns breakups into public spectacles, where she's always the victim. This is the same Fiona who threw a 3-day pity party because a guy she went on 2 dates with didn't text her back fast enough. She's the girl who spent months telling everyone her high school boyfriend was emotionally stunted because he forgot her half-birthday. She's the queen of dramatic exits, the tragic heroine of every breakup. But with Jeffrey? Nothing. No cryptic social media quotes about betrayal. No tearful speeches at family dinners. Just silence. Something about this whole situation isn't right, and I'm starting to think Little Miss Perfect is hiding more than anyone realizes. Fiona quietly broke up with her perfect boyfriend, the same guy she'd spent months shoving in everyone's faces, and just moved on without a word? Yeah, right. That's not Fiona. She doesn't do subtle. She's never kept a relationship secret in her life, not when she can make sure the whole world knows how desirable she is. Yet suddenly, here she is sneaking around, whispering threats to keep me quiet about Samuel. This is the same girl who once announced at our grandmother's birthday party that she went on a coffee date with a local weatherman. Not even a real date, just coffee. And yet now, she's Miss Discreet? Something bigger is going on, and I can feel it in my gut. Am I obsessing? Maybe. But I've spent my entire life watching Fiona manipulate people and situations to get what she wants. I know her playbook better than anyone, and this isn't it. Something isn't right. Update 2. I honestly didn't think I'd be back so soon, but you won't believe what I just discovered. Before I get to the bomb I'm about to drop, let me give you a quick personal update. Some of you asked about my love life, and well, surprise, surprise, I'm seeing someone. The unworthy sister finally found someone who sees her value. He's nothing like the guys Fiona dates. No flashy cars or over-the-top gifts. He listens when I talk, remembers the little things I say, and treats me with real respect. It's early, but for the first time in my life, I feel like someone sees me and not a shadow of Fiona. But that's not why I'm here. What I'm about to tell you makes everything else look like child's play. Last week, I was at the market downtown grabbing groceries when I passed this little cafe, the kind with big windows where you can see everyone inside. And guess who I saw? Fiona. But she wasn't alone. She was with Jeffrey. Yes, that Jeffrey. The same ex-boyfriend she claimed to be heartbroken over. They weren't just having coffee, either. They were holding hands across the table, looking very much like a couple. I froze on the sidewalk, staring through the window like a total idiot. They looked comfortable. They looked like two people who'd never broken up at all. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were getting back together. Maybe this was some kind of reconciliation. But something in my gut told me otherwise. This wasn't a reunion. This was a relationship that had never ended. It gets worse. That same night, guess who I saw sneaking into Fiona's bedroom? Samuel. The same Samuel she claims is helping her heal from Jeffrey. I stood in the hallway, trying to process what I was seeing. Either this was the world's messiest reconciliation, or Fiona was playing both guys at once. I couldn't ignore it anymore. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I started keeping tabs on Fiona. For the next few days, I watched her like a hawk, noting when she left the house, who she was with, when she came back. I even downloaded one of those shared location apps and convinced her to join for safety reasons. What I found made me sick. Every single day, Fiona was meeting Jeffrey. Coffee dates, lunch outings, shopping trips. They were together constantly, acting exactly the way they always had. No sign of any breakup. And then, like clockwork, Samuel would show up in the evenings, slipping into her room after our parents went to bed. She was living a double life and doing it so smoothly that I almost had to admire her skill. But then something even weirder happened. Maria, Fiona's ride-or-die best friend since middle school, had suddenly disappeared from her life. You have to understand, Maria and Fiona were inseparable. They had matching Instagram posts, weekly wine nights, and enough inside jokes to fill a book. Suddenly, radio silence. No more brunches. No more memes. They even unfollowed each other on every social platform. In Fiona's world, that's basically a declaration of war. Unlike most of Fiona's friends, Maria has always been decent to me. She actually treats me like a person. So, after a week of noticing the weird silence between them, I decided to go straight to the source. I showed up at Maria's house. She looked shocked when she opened the door. The first words out of her mouth weren't, "Hi," or "How are you?" They were, "Did Fiona send you?" There was something in her voice, not quite anger, but close to it. When I assured her Fiona had no idea I was there, she actually looked relieved. That told me everything I needed to know. Whatever was going on between them was serious. Maria didn't even let me finish my question. She just started laughing, not a happy laugh, but the kind of laugh you get when something is so messed up it's almost funny. Your sister, she said, shaking her head. Your sister is pure evil. She deserves everything that's coming to her. Coming from Maria, someone who's defended Fiona for years. This was huge. That's when Maria spilled everything. Turns out my perfect sister has been running the longest con I've ever heard of. Remember how I said the timing of her relationship with Samuel seemed weird? Well, according to Maria, there was never a breakup with Jeffrey. Not even close. Fiona has been playing both guys from the very beginning. She's been dating Jeffrey publicly, keeping up her perfect couple image, while secretly seeing Samuel on the side. Maria said she'd known about it for weeks but stayed quiet to protect their friendship. Classic Maria, always trying to see the best in people. But then Fiona did something that crossed every line. She bragged about it. Over coffee, Fiona proudly explained to Maria how she was living her best life by juggling both guys. When Maria tried to talk sense into her, pointing out how wrong it was and how hurtful it would be when they found out, Fiona laughed it off. This is totally normal, she said, like she was explaining basic math. Everyone does it. They just don't admit it. When Maria stood her ground, refusing to support Fiona's mess, Fiona turned on her. She called Maria a poisonous snake for not backing her up, accused her of being jealous, and ended their 20-year friendship then and there. My perfect sister, the one who spent years making me feel worthless for not being in a relationship, was cheating on 2 boyfriends like some kind of twisted circus act. The irony is almost too perfect. All those lectures about how I needed to be more like her? Yeah, I think I'll pass on being a cheater. Thanks. So now I'm sitting on this nuclear bomb of information, and I didn't know what to do with it. Should I keep quiet like always or let the truth come out? Was it finally time for Little Miss Perfect to face the consequences of her actions? Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last post, and trust me, I never thought I'd be back. But after everything that's happened, I owe you all the finale. And let me tell you, it's one hell of an ending. First, I want to thank everyone who supported me. Your comments, advice, and encouragement gave me the strength to finally stand up for myself. To everyone who said I deserved better than being Fiona's emotional punching bag, this one's for you. Remember how I was debating what to do about Fiona's little too-timing situation? Well, after years of being the quiet sister who always took the high road, I decided enough was enough. Perfect Fiona, who spent years making me feel worthless for being single, was juggling 2 boyfriends like some cheap rom-com character. For once in my life, I had the power to do something about it. Here's what went down. Our parents' 36th wedding anniversary was coming up, and they planned this huge celebration. Fancy venue, catered food, the works. Of course, Fiona was in charge of the guest list. I noticed she only invited Jeffrey, her official boyfriend, and left Samuel in the dark. That's when I realized this was my chance. I spent weeks planning. Every detail had to be perfect because I knew I'd only get one shot. Fiona had spent years building her image as the perfect daughter, sister, and girlfriend. She'd convinced everyone that I was the mess, the one who couldn't get her life together. Well, it was time to show everyone what perfect really looked like. The hardest part was getting both guys to show up without Fiona finding out. I couldn't just send invitations, that would be too obvious. I needed it to come from Fiona herself. Enter Maria. She still had both guys' contact information from group events Fiona used to organize. Together, we crafted perfect invitations, right down to Fiona's dumb heart emojis and her signature, "Can't wait to see you." Maria sent Jeffrey's invite, and I handled Samuel's. Neither of them suspected a thing. The night of the party, I stationed myself near the entrance, hands shaking, waiting for Maria's text. And then it happened. Both guys arrived minutes apart. Jeffrey walked in first, polished as ever in his designer suit. Then Samuel followed, looking around for Fiona. I walked up to them, pretending to play the gracious host. "Oh, you must be looking for Fiona," I said sweetly. "Let me introduce you to each other, since you're both so special to my sister." What happened next played out better than anything I could have scripted. They shook hands, doing that polite small talk thing. until Jeffrey asked how Samuel knew Fiona. Samuel smiled and said, "Oh, I'm Fiona's boyfriend. We recently started dating." Jeffrey's smile froze. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" Samuel pulled out his phone and showed Jeffrey a picture of him and Fiona together, a photo that left no room for doubt. Jeffrey's face went pale as he processed what he was seeing. He didn't even hesitate. He pulled out his phone and showed Samuel his own photos, intimate pictures of him and Fiona taken just days before. The two of them stood there like lawyers presenting evidence, both realizing they'd been played. Then I spotted Fiona near the dessert table. Her face had gone ghost white. For the first time in her life, she looked terrified. The music stopped. Conversations died. Everyone turned to watch as Fiona's carefully constructed image came crashing down. Jeffrey stormed over, threw his invitation in her face, and shouted, "You lying, cheating piece of... well, you get the idea." Fiona tried to stammer out an explanation, but both guys were done. They laid out every lie she told, every time she played them against each other. The room erupted in whispers and laughter, the same kind of cruel laughter Fiona had used against me for years. This time, it was directed at her. Fiona burst into tears, full-on ugly crying, mascara running down her face. She tried playing the victim, but no one bought it. Both guys dumped her on the spot, loudly and publicly. The aftermath? Our parents were mortified. The party was a disaster. Fiona packed her bags and left town 3 days later without telling anyone where she was going.
No volví. No explanación.
Just gone. Mom and Dad are finally seeing Fiona for who she really is. They haven't compared me to her once since she left, and for the first time in my life, I feel free. As for me, things are good. That guy I mentioned? We're doing great. For once, I'm in a relationship where I'm valued for who I am, not compared to someone else. So, this is me signing off. Fiona's gone, and honestly, good riddance. Maybe some time away from her pedestal will teach her how to be a decent human being. Take care of yourselves, and remember, karma might take her time, but she always delivers in the end.